Good morning. Thank you so much. It's great to be back in Northwest Florida. Great to be here with you all in Destin, and especially, sit down, we got a lot to cover this morning. And especially when we're able to continue making good on what we said we would do. And we're going to sign a series of bills here today to cement this state as the free state of Florida and as the freest state in the country. We got a number of great folks joining us here today. First and foremost, one of the folks who was right with me battling Dr. Fauci for many, many years, our Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo. We got a number of state representatives with us here. We have Representatives Rudman, Abbott, Maney, and Juan Carlos Porras, so welcome to them. And then we also have Senator Jay Trumbull with us here today, so thank you. You don't have Destin, do you? Oh, you do have it. Oh, wow, you got a really good district. Congrats. And then we're also going to hear from some folks. So we have Angela Pearson, Ginger Parsons, and Sterling Marquez. So we're looking forward to hearing their stories. Yep. So we've been able to accomplish an awful lot in the state of Florida. And we've been able to sign a lot of legislation just in the last few weeks, making good on the promises that we've made over the past year. And it's important stuff. I mean, you have things like prohibiting the Chinese Communist Party from buying critical land in the state of Florida. You have landmark legislation kneecapping ESG in the state of Florida. You have major legislation supporting education, supporting teacher salaries, but also protecting those paychecks from automatic union deductions. And that's going to give them more take-home pay to be able to do that. And we have so many more things coming down the pike, many more things that we have done, and that's all helping make Florida one of the strongest, if not the strongest state in the country. But I'll tell you, all that stuff is very important, and all that stuff has been meaningful. But I don't know that it would have been that any of it would have amounted to much had we not, when the world went crazy, when common sense suddenly became an uncommon virtue. The state of Florida stood as a refuge of sanity, as a citadel of freedom for people. And I recognized that early on when I came, I think it was like a month or two into COVID, and you come to Northwest Florida and you see Texas plates, Louisiana plates, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, all that because everyone descended to Florida, but particularly to Northwest Florida. And if you were here, you didn't necessarily know there was a pandemic going on. You were able to make your own decisions. And so that really, I think, led the way, not just for the state of Florida, but also for the country and for the United States. And now we've been able to see many, many years later, at the time, everything we were doing in Florida, we were getting attacked. We were getting attacked by bureaucrats like Fauci. We were being attacked by the political left. We were being attacked by corporate media, and we were even attacked by some Republicans. I mean, that's just kind of the way it goes. But we stuck to our guns because we believed that we were doing the right thing for the state. And based on what they told us. And so a lot of people took it here in Florida and other places. And then what happened was, you get into the summer of 2021, and you have massive outbreak of Delta variant. People were getting infected who had taken 2 shots of mRNA vaccination. And we responded to that clear evidence in Florida by saying, you know what, if this isn't working, we got to treat people. So we set up monoclonal antibody clinics throughout the state of Florida. We helped thousands and thousands of people, tens of thousands of people for that. And when we were doing that, I was actually getting attacked by media and by left, by bureaucrats, because they said, you know, you should be focusing on vaccination for this. These people already had COVID. The vaccination didn't stop it. And giving treatment is a good thing. But they said if people know there's a treatment, then they might not do a vax or they might not do a booster shot. So they wanted to de-emphasize treatment. And we did actually tens of thousands of people in August and September of 2021. And a lot of people have told me, even to this day, that they would have ended up in the ICU had they not gotten the monoclonal. So it really helped a lot of people. And it not only helped people in Florida. I would run into people, hey, I'm from another state, thank you for the monoclonals. I was like, well, wait a minute, if you're not in Florida, how did you get monoclonals? And they're like, no. They're like, I didn't know what they were. My doctor didn't tell me anything about these, but I saw one of your press conferences on the internet. And so when, you know, my husband or my mom or whatever got COVID, I asked the physicians, where are the monoclonals? And they kept asking. So we provided a lot of useful information for people so that they could fight for themselves and fight for their family members. Honestly, it's sad that would be the case. It's sad that someone in another state would only know about a treatment because the governor of Florida is talking about it. All the physicians should have been talking about this. I mean, this was not something that should have been quiet. But I think what happened, and then Biden took our monoclonals away because we were having so much success. So they said, you don't get any more. So I had to do a deal with another company to get some, to kind of get us where we need to go. And then they did a deal with that company, so we couldn't do it anymore on our own. And it was really sad and really troubling. And then also at that time, you remember, they made the decision, Biden, a lot of corporations, Fauci, all these people, that they were going to use coercion to force more shots on the American people. So they instituted a rule with CMS saying medical folks had to do this or they could lose the job. You know, we sued on that, and then we didn't win the suit. We actually said we're not going to survey hospitals for you in Florida, so they didn't have the data here, so they fined the state. But that's fine. We ended up saving a lot of people's jobs by standing up for that, which we're happy to do. And then they did the OSHA mandate, which is basically non-medical private sector, where they were saying you had to take the shot, and then we sued on that. We won on that in the Supreme Court. We lost on the CMS, but then we would not cooperate with CMS. But just think about that. Congress never enacted any type of vaccine requirement. I don't know if they have the authority to do that. I think not. But clearly, they never did anything about this. This is the bureaucracy acting on its own, the administrative state, trying to deprive people of the right to put food on the table for their family. That you either do this or you don't work or you don't eat. That was a disgrace to this country that they tried to do that. And we fought them every step of the way on that. But I think the fact that you see that shows you for sure these restrictions and these mandates, the purpose of them was not to safeguard your health. The purpose of them was to control your behavior. They wanted you to behave the way they thought fit, and they were willing to use coercion to do it. So that was totally unacceptable, so we did a special session of the Florida legislature in the fall of 2021. We enacted protections against those mandates so people weren't forced to choose between a shot that they did not want and a job that they needed. And so that saved a lot of jobs, and it wasn't just because of the mandate from Biden and the administration. There were massive corporations that were also trying to do this, and a lot of those corporations were not based in Florida, but they were trying to impose Fauciism through the private sector, so we protected those employees as well, and we were happy to do that. We also wanted to make sure that we were empowering parents by banning any COVID shot mandates for school children, which we were one of the first states to do that in the state of Florida. We also banned vaccine passports in the state of Florida so people could make their own decisions and participate in society without having to show medical papers to go have dinner somewhere. So that really contributed, I think, to this aura of freedom that Florida had. I mean, one of the reasons we did so well in tourism in 2021 is people knew if they came to Florida, they could do as they chose. They would not be ground down with mandates and these restrictions. And so that's a really, really good thing. And so we're proud to have played that role. But a lot of people were harmed by what the federal government did. A lot of people were harmed by what some of these state governments did. And it created, I think, a situation where we've been always looking, what more can we do? You also had the situation where the official narrative was not consistent with the data and the facts on the ground. That's why you have people like Ladapo. He's telling the truth, and a lot of these people are attacking him, but they don't attack him with the data. They just attack him with kind of the catchphrases and the groupthink. Well, I think it's really important for the health of our people that physicians are able to speak the truth. They're willing to and able to buck consensus, quote unquote, and buck established medicine, because what we saw with COVID is the medical establishment really lost its mind. They became very political. They were not listening to data. Even to this day, you will have pediatricians that are trying to jab 6-month-old babies with an mRNA shot. Now, there's no evidence this does anything beneficial for them, and there may be problems with doing that. I mean, what are you going to do? 6 months? You're going to give them an mRNA shot every 6 months or year for the rest of their lives? Give me a break. And yet that is being done. And so you've seen, I think, a lot of problems underneath the surface. And it's sad to say, because I think that the medical profession has lost a lot of respect. And it's not because most of them were bad. It was the people that were really visible and were really driving policy. We're clearly doing it with politics in mind and not just focusing on the data. So you've had states, even like California, which have enacted policies to say if a physician dissents from orthodoxy, if you dissent from, say, Fauci, then you could lose your medical license there, even if what you're saying is consistent with the data. Science isn't about following the crowd. Medicine's not about following the herd. It's about following the evidence and getting right answers. And so you may have the crowd taking a position. There may be people that have a lot of credentials, but if they're wrong, they're wrong. And there is a right answer when it comes to this stuff. So we want to make sure that people are protected in Florida. California doesn't want to do that. We want to do it. Last year, we worked with the legislature to enact protections for physicians. It fell apart at the 11th hour in the end of the legislative session, but with the help of the legislators here, we resolved that in 2023 we were not going to be denied that, and we were not going to take no for an answer. So that's another important thing that we've been able to do. So we've got a series of bills here today. First bill really goes back to the idea of prescribing freedom, and it does a lot of really, really important things. It makes all these protections permanent that we've done over the last 2 years. And so that's schools can't mandate COVID jabs, workplace can't mandate, vax passports, none of that stuff. All that stuff must be made permanent. It also expands protections, not just for COVID shots, but any shot under emergency use authorization. If it's emergency use, how can they force you to take it, whether it's a business or whether it's a government? That is wrong, and that will not be allowed. formally reject WHO in any of these international if they want to adopt something, if a county or someone in Florida wants to adopt, they've got to get it approved by the state of Florida Department of Health. There has to be some imprimatur on any of these things, because I think one of the things we saw with COVID was people would rely on CDC. They'd issue flawed guidance, and they say, no, we have to force these kids to wear masks because CDC is saying that. In the state of Florida, we want to be a buffer against flawed guidance, and with the prospect of WHO and this so-called treaty, I think they're really looking to institutionalize lockdown policies, and that will not happen here. So this is a great salvage. The bill also prevents discrimination against patients based on their COVID vax status. And I don't know how much this happened in Florida, but it did happen around the country, where people were being denied organ transplants because they did not do the mRNA shot. How incredibly cruel is that to try to do that? And so in Florida, that's not going to be acceptable. Honestly, it's not consistent with the Hippocratic Oath that physicians take, but things just went sideways on that. It also protects patients with the right to choose COVID-19 treatment alternatives without a hospital interfering in those personal decisions between a patient and their physician. You should have the right to try these under the supervision of your physician, and that is protected in the state of Florida. So we think that this is, and then if those rights are infringed, you have the ability to have grievances, and that's built into the bill. But in Florida, a lot of times anything you do like that could be considered a public record, but since there's sensitive stuff about people's health, there's a companion bill which will protect your medical privacy if you file the complaint. You don't want people to be able to FOIA your medical records just because somebody infringed on your rights. And so I think that that's an important companion. So that is in there as well. So just that is stronger than anybody in the country has done by a country mile, and we're proud of that. The other bill that we're going to be signing is SB 1580. It ensures freedom of speech for physicians. It ensures that physicians can follow the data, not dictates, and we want our physicians practicing evidence-based medicine. We don't want it to just defer to authority or to just follow the herd. So that is now law in the state of Florida. So this is kind of the opposite of what states like California has done. Where would you rather practice as a physician? A place where you can make your own judgment? And finally, we are the first state in the United States to ban formally gain-of-function research. I mean, you remember this gain-of-function had been going on. In 2014, they stopped it. That was even under Obama. They stopped it because they realized, wait a minute, what are the benefits of this research? But then what are the risks? And the risks far outweigh the benefits. But then inexplicably, it was brought back in 2017. HHS Office of Inspector General exposed the failure of NIH and EcoHealth Alliance to properly monitor funding and uncovered a multi-million-dollar grant to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So millions of taxpayer dollars were given for this grant, and yet some of the records regarding COVID-19 in this regard have mysteriously gone missing. Imagine that. So what we know is there was gain-of-function research being conducted at Wuhan, and that very likely led to the emergence of COVID-19, and yet there really isn't effective regulation. I just think, you're doing gain-of-function in Wuhan with our tax dollars, and this happens, you should be held accountable. Where's the accountability for people like Fauci and these other folks when they said they never did any of this? and we know much of that was not true. So I'm glad that the legislature stepped up to make a difference there with this very, very questionable gain of function research. There's a lot of great things that we can be researching to be able to put people in that predicament if something, God forbid, were to happen. That is not what we want to do. So we'll be signing these bills momentarily. We're going to hear from some speakers, but all in all, we set out to prescribe freedom in Florida. We made an announcement we were going to be pursuing this a few months ago, and I think we actually accomplished more than what we even promised then, because we added the gain of function, we added some of the other protections. So all in all, I think you should be proud of the work that your elected representatives did, and I'm going to be happy to sign this package of bills into law momentarily. But before I do that, we want to hear from some of our speakers. And so the first speaker doesn't need any introduction because you've seen him fighting the good fight on behalf of not just evidence-based medicine, but on behalf of medical freedom, Dr. Joseph Ladapo.
Push older woman out of the way in the grocery store just to get to what I want. Really, thank you very much. It's really kind. It's really kind sharing your love with me. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. And I love you. And the love that I'm here talking about love. And really, it's not an accident. So. 2 years ago, me and my wife and our 3 boys, we were in California. I was at UCLA as a faculty member there. I had a job for life. I was tenured. I was enjoying my work, and we were very happy. COVID came, a lot of madness in California, and still, even though it was a pain in the butt, a lot of the things we had to deal with. I was planning on staying. I really did think that I was going to die as an old man, God willing, in Los Angeles, and our kids were going to grow up there. And but fortunately, I got a phone call, and I got a phone call from this governor's office that wanted to talk to me about a job opening that they had or they were about to have. As my predecessor was on his way out, and we came here because of luck. We pulled our family, we had our roots planted there in Los Angeles, and we uprooted our family, and in a matter of weeks, literally changed the complete trajectory of our family, and it was because of love. And the love that where the love comes from is the love for individuals, human beings, to be able to get a little emotional here, to be able to make decisions about their lives. My team gave me this stack of papers. This is a whisper of the number of really sad stories that we saw over the last few years. People who were just trying to live their lives and make the decisions that they wanted for their lives. And someone else decided that, I've got this boot, and I'm going to stick it on your neck. And I'm going to say that, you have to make these decisions, only these decisions that I want. That, never mind the fact that so often they didn't make any sense, right? Or they didn't have any good evidence behind them. But ultimately, these were decisions that individuals have an absolute God-given right to make on their own. I mean, that is life. We're sent here by God, and we have autonomy over what we put in our body and the decisions we make about our health and how we take care of ourselves. And they're everything, from everyone from hospitals to just people who have no say in healthcare to governments were saying that this is how you have to live your life. And the stories are heartbreaking. We'll probably hear some more this morning. But it was a situation that was incredibly compelling for my wife and I, and we decided to go all in. So when I got that call, I actually wasn't sure what to do, but my wife had no doubt. As soon as I told her, she was like, she looked at me and said, "We should do it." And the wheel started turning, and we did it. And we did it because in the entire country, it's crazy, 50 states there are in this entire country. There was one leader, only one leader across 50 states that decided that authentically he saw what was wrong and he would not let it stand. And the love for that courage and that position and that willingness to stand for what you know in your heart and soul is the right thing, unequivocally, period. No, oh, but it spreads by this, or no, but no, this might help, and you just have to do it, and it's just for a little while, and 7 shots later, right? Or 3 masks later. God knows what the hell they're I gotta stop using it. I'm sorry. I know there's some kids out there. I'm sorry. That Governor DeSantis, just authentically dug his heels in and said, here are human rights. Here is liberty. Here is your autonomy, your relationship to God, right? And I'm going to stand here and I'm going to protect that. And I don't care. And I don't care what they throw at me. I don't care what they say. I don't care what they spin. I don't care what they do. I am standing right here. And his willingness to do that, it certainly brought us, our family, over here. And it changed the world. One person at a time, it brought everyone to that side. So much so that, it's just the highlight reel is popcorn worthy, right? Show me a school that I closed. I didn't close one school. Show me a school that I closed. Show me a business I closed. We were really trying to get the kids back in school. We were trying. We were really working on that to get So these individuals will go unnamed. But this is like right. These people, they were on the other side of that, right? And they had the media with them. They had, unfortunately, a lot of my medical colleagues with them. There was one voice, right? And they were proudly, strutting and chest out and all that with these, this is what we have to do. This is the right way to do it. And now all those people, they could not run faster and further away from these positions to sound. They sound like he did, except they're a little late and very, very wrong, right? Because it's a big old political, just dodge and escape. So that is the fight, that is the battle, and it's one that is it's really important to stay in connection with, because those people have not changed at all. There's nothing different about them, They wear a new mask. They've got some new sound bites to dodge the fallout and the responsibility. And God help us hold them to that. But they haven't changed at all. And what that means, right, is that all that stuff, right, it is prime ready for rollout. Again, the next time they get the whiff of an opportunity to do it. Make no mistake about it. That is who they are. They haven't changed. So that's one reason why this type of legislation is good. And, and also it buys us time to make the changes we need ourselves to ensure that we are not so vulnerable to these types of tactics, however they look when they show up. And, and here at the Department of Health, we've tried to really do that, right? We've really promoted a message of people getting back to health, right? Physical activity, right? Sunshine, putting good food in your body, all those types of things do help make you more in touch with, more in touch with yourself, healthier, and more resistant to these types of shenanigans and these types of little tricks and tactics to get people to agree to stuff that is, that really ultimately is immoral and shouldn't even be happening. So now I'm just going to take a moment to my team asked me to talk about the gain of function piece a little bit more. And I'm really glad that our lawmakers have just banned it, have put the kibosh on gain of function type research in Florida. And it's not so much because the research itself is it's not only because it's inherently risky. I mean, it's obviously, 3 years later, we see how almost certainly that was the source of what we're dealing with, and heaven has seen the carnage, but also because it actually highlights a fundamental issue which was reflected in the pandemic, which is that scientists, very, very smart individuals, but they sometimes and frankly often have very, very poor judgment. So here, the governor talked a little bit about EcoHealth and the pause that happened on this type of gain of function research in 2014. Although that was the pause for research that was new, research that was ongoing still could have continued, and in fact it did. And the governor mentioned an Inspector General report. I mean, it's actually a very good report. It was published, I think, in January 2023, and it outlines the fact that this type of research was ongoing at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, funded, make no mistake, by our taxpayer dollars, that were initially awarded to the EcoHealth Alliance. And when the Inspector General requested that EcoHealth obtain more details from this Wuhan Institute of Virology about specifics for the type of work that they were doing, crickets, right? There's no documentation, nothing came out. How predictable is that? I mean, anyone who has any sense would just obviously see that if you're going to be doing risky research, and there were policies in place even at this time in 2017 in the previous administration for, okay, if you're going to do this type of research, here are the conditions you need to meet. And one of those conditions is that you have a good partner, right? You have a partner that's trustworthy, that's going to uphold standards of safety, and that will be communicative about the type of work that's done. Do you have to live in China for years to know that you cannot have a partner in China like that? I mean, you don't need that. But unfortunately, the scientists, very smart individuals, sometimes have